Hey folks, Illuminator here, and in today's video I wanted to go over patch notes. Not overly in depth, I just wanted to go over a few of the things that caught my attention and just try and summarize them as best as I can. So we'll skip the Necropolis changes because a lot of people have obviously done videos on that. You've seen the trailers. So I'm gonna skip the new content and features as well because that's not really the meat and potatoes of the video. Now, in terms of endgame improvements, there have been a lot of stuff that has changed, both in terms of how some system works and in terms of quality of life, which is really great. The things that really caught my attention is a change that they have done in terms of accessing the Uber bosses this week. So instead of just allocating stuff on the tree, now we have to beat tier 17 maps. So we'll be obtaining fragments to access the pinnacle boss, which means that to get all your Uber boss fights, and I would assume that I can't remember if you actually get any void stones. I don't think that you get void stones for the Uber bosses, so that's fine. But that means that you still get a little bit gated in case in terms of accessing Uber content if you don't have a character that can handle tier 70 maps. So what that means for me is, because I really want to try and get to as much of this endgame content this week as possible, in addition to completing as many challenges as possible, is that I really want to basically the short of it is I'm going just to choose a really solid starter. We won't be going off the beaten track. We won't be trying something off meta or something that's homebrewed. I'm not that good of build maker, so I'm just gonna rely on stuff that has been tried and tested by other players. And I've had a look at POB, and I've stopped. I've got a couple of builds that I've considered for being my league starter. I'm gonna go over them in a second, and just to let you know what I'll be doing on stream over on twitch.tv. So I'll just be doing short league starting runs for the characters that I have in mind. It may not be the full campaign, it may be just the first 3 or 4 acts, just to get an idea how quickly and how easy they are to level, and then I'll make my final decision based on that. Going forward with changes, so I think in here, obviously, the change to the pinnacle boss is the biggest change in terms of endgame. We've also made a few tweaks to your pinnacle bosses fights, so their difficulties are more balanced with one another. This is such a GGG thing to say. They say something, but they don't actually say anything because we don't know how exactly they've tweaked it. So we need to actually see. But that's fine for me because I've never experienced the pinnacle content before, so it would be a first for me anyway. The 5th slot in the map device is now unlocked upon completing a non-Valdo tier 17 map, which again is impactful because that means that we definitely need to be able to handle tier 17 maps one way or another if we want to progress our endgame content. Sextant and master mission removal, that's another pretty significant change in terms of endgame. So basically, GGD has done away with sextants and with master missions, which, the way I see it, is that if you're not hyper min-maxing everything, that is a buff for players like that, in terms of we don't have to play around with choosing the master mission, making sure that it is selected. crafting your sectants, rolling them, etc. Now, because this is the way that I play the game, a little bit more casually, so I think for me to streamline the mapping experience, it will make it more, more quicker, more, and I think more enjoyable, to be honest, having done away with faffing about with, other stuff and just focusing on your maps. And from what I understand, scarabs, they've been reworked as well, so I think I'm hoping that we have, more access to sectants, and we'll be able to use them as a leverage to add on additional content to our maps. But again, we actually need to wait and see how it actually feels in game, because all those changes, until you've played the league, you can't really say how they exactly feel. Now, Maven invitations, they no longer drop, which is kind of cool in the sense that sometimes you'd be looking for an invitation for some of the fights and you wouldn't be getting them, and you'd have to actually waste some of the boss maps to get the invitation before you can actually witness the bosses. Atlas passive tree changes, we'll skip that. I've got a basic tree that I've set up for myself, which is very difficult, very similar to what I do early game every lake. It's just like the initial Atlas completion run. So I'll go over this with you as well. It's pretty basic, and I sort of enjoy this for SSF progression. Next thing is lake changes. So something else that they've done is now essences used to be run primarily in white maps because it didn't make any change to the type of essences you get, or like the tier of essences. So people would just run like even tier 1 maps just to speed run them and get as many essences as much essences as possible. Now they've changed that, so they're limiting the tier of essences up to screaming if you're doing white maps, and then yellow or red maps can spawn up to a maximum tier of shrieking. So I think that we shift, obviously, farming essences from white maps to yellow maps. Same, I think, with bestiary. Bestiary recipe for getting one of each Atlas mission now instead costs you. No, where did they say that? I think they basically are trying to incentivize you to run your bestiary content in har maps. Is that not? Or maybe I'm misremembering. There's quite a lot of stuff. So. And the other thing, I think, from what they're saying, is that we'll be getting a lot of scarabs from the way that they have reworked June and the Syndicate mission. So we'll need to relearn that as well, relearn what rewards are associated with what members and associated with what positions. But again, we'll learn that once we start the league. What else? I'm not really gonna go over the maps. It's a bit of mixed bag. Some nice ones have left the game, some nice have re-entered the game, and the other way around. Some bad have left the game and some bad have entered the game. So it's a bit of even trade out. Now, one nice thing this league is that we've got access to all of the Kirok mobs, which is quite cool. We've got assets for 3 cows, which is fantastic for SSF. Now, one change to Unholy Might is that it now has a chance to apply Wither on hit. Also, instead of gaining 30% of physical damage as extra cows, it gets just 100% conversion of physical to cows. But I think the fact that we're getting a chance to apply Wither on hit is pretty good. There have been some other reworks of the Necromancer Ascendancy as well, so playing SRS pops would be quite nice this league, I think. seeing that they've changed the on-hit version has been nerfed quite significantly. Skill damage changes, so that's the big part. Now, again, from what I gather, they've changed, some things have been nerfed as expected. What remains to be seen is that if they are actually still playable and if they would feel good. So I'm gonna test this with a few things. But again, a big thing is that a lot of the changes have been done to the transfigured gems, which again, I'm not really planning to start with the transfigured gem just because I am starting in SSF. So we'll largely ignore those buffs or nerfs because we are not going to be starting those gems now. Big change has been to Archmage. It can no longer support Branged or Orb skills, which killed a few builds that were floating about. Again, some people are saying it's a buff for mana stack. Some people say it's a huge nerf, but again, I think we just need to play with it to see. Ball Lightning of Static can no longer be used by totems. That's quite a huge nerf because this build actually wanted to check this. I've seen this being played by a few people last week and I did want to try it, but it seems that they've missed my window of opportunity for that. Again, more stuff that's like just transfigured gems. Blink Arrow of Prismatic Clones, that gets 25% more damage. That was something that I essentially wanted to play either as a league starter. I know that it's transfigured gem, but I was considering that was my one transfigured gem league starter. Although I was planning to play the Bama build. So that gets, although it was the big arrow of not the prismatic clones but the other transfigured version. So maybe we can try and see if there is any potential with this one later on if we've happen to get it. Again, more transfigured gems, we don't care about that. Explosive Trap of Shrapnel, a lot of people are saying how good it is, but again, trapping is an acquired taste. Some people like it, some people don't. It seems like a buff, again, buff in some regards, nerf in others. But I've not really played traps in quite a while, so I can't really speak in great details. Now, another thing that caught my side was Frostblink. Now it's got 250% effectiveness of fire damage, previously 180. And one of my potential league starters, and that's, I'm going to go over it in a second once we've gone over all the notes, but let's say that I'm going to try and see if it's viable at all to sort of do an elementalist that uses both Frostblink for like clearing and then detonate that as well for like single target, but I'm not really sure if it would even work. So that's one of the things I'm gonna try a bit before league start. Generous Cry, a shorter cooldown, so potentially we can do a Generous Cry at some point. What else? Mirror Arrow of Prismatic Clones, again, buff 25% more damage with elemental arrows, but again, the Bama build uses both Mirror Arrow, so we could play with it. Now, the other thing that I'm considering is, everybody knew that Penance Brand of Dissipation is gonna get nerfed. It is getting nerfed. But the thing is, I don't know if it will be wrecked or if it will still be playable and viable And since I don't have super high expectations for my league start, I just want to get my Atlas done. I might actually give it a try. I don't think... Now, there is obviously other things that have been nerfed, but most of them are like transfigured gems. Now, Sniper Smart gets nerfed, which also nerfs Tornado Shot, which I think gets nerfed separately as well. But that's expected, to be honest, seeing how dominant it is both in trait and SSF. Now, Summon Raging Spirit is losing 40% more damage, up to 38%, but that is just for the hit version. So we did think about league starting Raging Spirit, but we will actually try to start with Raging Spirit's Pops. So that's the version that basically is not using the on-hit damage, but it's basically exploding for a percentage of its life as damage. So we'll try that instead of a Guardian, because the Guardian is getting a nerf as well in terms... where is it? It's in terms of the Sentinels of Radiance, they are getting nerfed. So we will try it on a Necromancer. There is a few buffs. So as you can see, the minus aggression ascendancy. So it's losing increased movement speed, increased attack speed, and increased cast speed. However, and the increased damage. However, getting 10% more damage and 20% more maximum life. And here, the Bone Barrier Ascendancy passive skill no longer grants level 20 Bone Armor skill and no longer provides 2% increased recovery rate of life and energy per minion, up to 20%. Or minions can go 20% more maximum life, which now we get from the other node. Instead, it provides minions have 40% of life added as extra energy shield, and 1% of damage dealt by your minions is leached to as life, which is quite nice. So I think that's pretty much all the stuff that I wanted to touch on. There is heaps of other like bits and pieces, but we can't spend hours going over it. But I think that's that we wanted. Oh yeah, another thing that is pretty cool, but again we'll see how much it is, what the availability is in SSF. We are getting tattoos back, so that would be something potentially interesting if we can get our hands on them. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of like the very concise patch notes version. Now I'm going to go over my like starter Atlas tree, what I wanted to do for the very first playthrough of the Atlas. We are going to go through the betrayal stuff here. Not betrayal, yeah. The June mission. So we get basically we're getting the 2% chance for monsters in each of your maps to drop an additional connected map, which is quite important as a as you're starting that. Get more chance to contain June. Then we'll go through more chance to get additional maps. I think we will go straight through the middle to get to that node here to get Kirok missions. After that, I think what we'll do is we'll go for more chance for monsters to drop adjacent maps. We'll get the June stuff here. Then we'll go, actually we'll go here first for more chance for monsters to drop connected maps. And then we'll get Shaping the Skies, Shaping the Mountains, And after this, what my plan is, we'll start with essences. We'll go our, basically we'll go through here, go get the rest of the essence and the essence here. We will start, now I'm not really sure if you want to get boxes first or expedition. Now expedition is a little bit more difficult, so I don't know if you want to get this before boxes, because boxes are pretty easy. So we get boxes, more box stuff here. Now the important one is tamper proof, which corrupts, and the boxes which will be at least rare. So that's potentially a chance to get corrupted 6-link. This one is quite nice as well. Oh no, they've changed that. Okay. They've changed it, because before you can get an operative box which gave you scarabs, but I suppose they're thinking that scarabs will be plentiful, so we just get another 10% chance to be openable again, but I suppose it's good. And then we could potentially get shrine stuff, more shrine stuff here, more box stuff here, and at some point we'll be getting our expedition. Now if we think that the character is tanky, again we can play with the order that you are getting the different mechanics invested on, but basically from my perspective your priority should be, you know, stuff that's enhancing your map drops. Essences should be quite cool, but again, depending on what character you are having, sometimes maybe essences will be too tough for you at lower levels, so maybe start with boxes and shrines and then work in expedition or you know, essences. At some point you may obviously decide that your map sustain is good, so you can lose this stuff, change the pattern a little bit, save some points, but yeah, this should be mostly my initial tree. I've tried it a few times in previous league starts and it's always worked out quite nicely. Now in terms of our builds that we are considering for 324, so we are considering Penance Branch, we are considering Necro SRS Pops, and we are considering Elementalist, Ignite, and Bama. Now Bama obviously Transfigured Gem, so probably we'll reserve this for like a second character, and I'm just going to just show you what stuff, basically all of these builds I've gotten from our website called, let me show you if you're not aware. So PoE Ninja, one really cool feature is you go to builds, you go to whatever, so I want to play hardcore SSF, so we go to hardcore SSF Affliction, Time Machine, you select, let's say day 3 up to week 1 is usually what I do, and then you see what different builds are. You maybe if you've got a build, you know, a skill that you have in mind that you want to play, you put it in the filter, let's say Stormbrand. Let's say you want to play Stormbrand, which probably would be a mistake next league, but just for the sake of the argument, you see at this point what characters, and then you can go through their atlas trees, you can see their setup, so that's quite nice way to get some inspiration. So I did that off stream yesterday, and this is basically the stuff that caught my attention. The Penance Brand, so I've got a few different versions that I've seen. So what I usually, the first thing the first few things that I really pay attention to is, because we play hardcore, we will play hardcore, we want to see what's the effective hit pool, what's the physical max hit, elemental max hit, chaos max hit, and we try and pick something that's got pretty huge number. If something has got, let's say, less than, I would say, 15k physical hit, or less than at least 50-60 effective hit pool, it would be difficult to play if you're not a god gamer. I'm not a god gamer, so I try to get builds which are, foolproof, which make it easier for you to go through content because they are tanky. Other things we try and see is what the different items are. Are they items that you realistically think that you can, craft within the first week? And if the answer is yes, then, we save the build. We obviously try and see what different setups for skills are. What I usually do is I'm just gonna write down the final skill gem setup and try and pre-plan at which point in the campaign I'll be able to switch to it. And sometimes you're able to play a game like a skill from very early on. Sometimes you need to play different leveling build. So as you can see, obviously this is this league's numbers. Things may change, but again, over 100k effective hit pool with items which I think are pretty pretty craftable. It's not nothing super difficult, so that's something that I'll definitely be trying out, because I did have a run with Penance Brand and I just love the mechanic of it. I've not played with brands in a while. Now I will post those POBs in the description below, just if you have some, if you're looking for some inspiration. And the other one is basically the Necro SRS, who played as a minion instability build, and eventually what we will pivot into, again, you can see here, but that's a level 88 build, so it's just under 30k effective hit pool, very low physical hit, max hits, and again, pretty low values. But again, we are playing a minion build, so we are this, being able to dodge stuff and not care so much about targeting is another layer of defense. And then what you have to consider is, again, nothing super difficult to craft. So basically the gear that I can see here, I consider this craftable. And then what we would pivot into is poison SRS build. And again, this has got much higher survivability, and there is a few different versions of it. I like saying different versions because it just you can study them and see what people are doing differently, and obviously you can try it out in game, because I think trying out stuff and thinking and asking why players have gone a certain way, or why they have, like, see the previous SRS guy goes down this way, and I found it fascinating just pondering why people have done certain decisions, because that makes you a better player if you stop to ponder about these things. Another build, so we wanted to do an Elementalist Ignite, and we've actually got, so this is the DD Ignite that Ben favors for like playing in any bossing events. And although I played DD a while ago and it was a different version of DD, so I've not actually played it in ages, so I'm not really put off by the fact that many people do it. And to be honest, I don't really care, because I want a solid build that can get to potentially try and learn that content on a shoestring budget. And another thing that, again, you'd see some pretty good, okay-ish survivability. Now, what I did see is that Subtractem's Frostblink Ignite also has got a pretty similar tree. So I'm gonna try and test a run where if you go to Ben's setup, so we're gonna take the setup, the entire gem setup that he has, and here we can put in Frostblink. At least I'm hoping that to work. So we would use Frostblink Ignite to clear and DD for bosses, and then obviously we can gem swap. My idea was maybe to swap Cruelty for Frostblink and then swap it out for mapping and then swap it out for bossing. Whether it will work, no idea. Whether I'll try it, for sure. Again, let me see what's his survivability. That's okay, so lower survivability on his build. And the last thing I was considering is obviously Bama, because I do want to play it at some point, either as a champion or a guardian. Now the champion, where is the survival? Again, not super high, but minion build. This one has got slightly higher numbers, and then if we go to a level 100 guardian, yeah, even more survivability. What about the 94 one? Yeah, so that's quite a low survivability on this one, but on paper it's not too bad. So yeah, these are my, I'm not gonna say build suggestions. This is just the stuff that I'm gonna be playing about. I'll post like the main POBs for these ones, and I'll leave them for you to, if you want to use them, you can try and figure out how to get through the campaign. The one that obviously the Elementalist POB for Subtractem, he's done quite a nice job of like doing the different POBs during the act, so you can get like an idea how to level it. But the other ones are just the final POBs. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Gonna head over to PoE, and I'll start doing some trial runs. I'll post the link down under in the description as well. So if you want to see how those classes are progressing during the campaign, hang out, ask some questions, feel free. Thanks very much for stopping by, and I hope to see you over at twitchtv.com/Noobinator_TV. And yeah, have a good one, Exiles. Take it easy. Bye.